Hey, what's up guys, it's Theo from Fino Concept. So today we are going to merge all of these image app and create a photo manipulation like this one in Adobe Photoshop. So let's just get started. Welcome to Fino Concept. Click the subscribe button and hit the bell icon so you don't miss out on any of our future videos. Alright, so let's open up our application. For this tutorial I'm using Photoshop CC 2019 and I'll go ahead and create a new document. So I'm going to set the weight to, I can just leave it as 1920 by 1080, but you know what, let's increase it for today. So I'll set it to 2000 by 1145 and the resolution I'll leave it at 300 and just click on create. Alright, now there are a couple of images I'm going to be using, so let's just go to the desktop and see what we have. So I have the turtle in here, I have the land in here, so let's go ahead and drag the land in there first. So I'll just put that in here like so, and I'll increase the size to fit the screen like this. Let me just bring this up a little bit. We might bring it down later on, but for now let's just leave it as that. So I'll double click and call this background, and I'll go ahead and bring in the next image. So with that, I'm not going to drop it on this, I'm going to open it up in a new tab right here. Now the reason why I'm doing this is I want to create a selection around my subject, which is the turtle, like so. Honestly, you can use the quick selection tool to create a selection, but I'm not sure how perfect this is going to be. So you know what, let me just try. If it works, fine. If it doesn't, then I'll just be using the pen tool. The pen tool is the best tool for this kind of situation because it allows you to create everything the way you want it, because you are just clicking and dragging just as you are supposed to. So I think the quick selection tool is doing quite a good job so far, but I will be able to remove certain edges later on by using the pen tool. Alright, so once I have this selection, you know what, let's remove this part also. So if you want to remove any part, you just hold down the Alt key, it will turn the quick selection tool to a minus sign. So that's going to remove that selection for you. And I think this is pretty solid already. So I'll click on this layer mask icon right here, and that's going to create a mask around my subject like so. Is everything alright? No, I think I have a little bit of problem here, so I'll just use the brush tool, set it to a reasonable size, and I'll fill it in like so. I think that was actually a right thing. Alright, so once I have that, right click and go to apply layer mask, and you know what, I want to remove the imperfection, so I'll go into the adjustment panel, click on solid color and choose any solid color. Let's go with white, and I'll have that beneath my main image. So I'll just zoom in like so, make sure that the image layer is selected, which is this one. Press P for the pen tool, and I'll create a selection around this area like this. Now this would have been a lot tedious if I was using the pen tool to begin with, because all of these areas I'll have to create myself. So once I come back to the original location, once I have this, right click and go to make selection and click on OK. Now once you have your selection, just hit the delete key on your keyboard. That's going to delete that area for you. So you can see the pen tool actually makes it very smooth. So I think I'll remove this area too, like so, just trying to make the edges a bit finer. Now imagine me using the pen tool in the beginning, I wouldn't be going through this whole process all over again. Again, right click, make selection, okay, hit delete on your keyboard. So that's what I'm going to be doing for the other parts which are unwanted, like this part I have here right around the foot. Alright, right click, create selection, delete on my keyboard. Alright, so I think I'm done with my selection. So I'll go to the top here of the toolbar, and I'll grab the move tool, that is V on your keyboard, and I'll click and drag this over here without leaving the mouse. I'll bring it here, then release the mouse, and wow, this thing is very huge. So I'll reduce the size to about this big, try to position it over here. Alright, so this is okay. Now we don't need this, so I'll go ahead and just close it up. Well, I'm seeing a problem over here. The problem is the contrast of the image for the background is quite different from that of the tortoise, You know what, let me just go ahead and name it up. So what I'm going to do is I'll duplicate this, Ctrl J, and hide the main one. So hold down Ctrl Shift and press A. This is going to open up the camera raw filter. If you can't do that, just go to filter and you should see camera raw filter from there. So what I'm going to do is increase the texture and the clarity. I don't know by how much, but I think 20 for the texture and 25 for the clarity should be okay. And I'll just click on create. So if I go ahead and turn off the eyeball, you can see that it's much sharper, or I should say much better this time around. Alright, so again, let's just hide this for a second. Right click on the background and make it a rasterized layer. And I'm going to grab the quick selection tool again and create a selection around the top like so. And I'll just click on the new layer mask icon like so. Now this isn't the part I want, so I'll hold down the Control key and press I. That is going to invert the layer mask selection for me. So if I hold down the Shift key and I press on the layer mask, you can see that this is what we had before and after. I'm trying to replace the clouds from here, so I'll go into my file explorer. Let's see if I can get some clouds in here. This one looks nice. I think I'll just bring this one in my Photoshop like so. Place this somewhere around here and have it behind the background so that it's going to show beneath it. And let's just stretch it out a little. You know what, let me just rather flip this. So right click, flip horizontal and stretch it out. I can also just use the Control key and just manipulate it or deform the shape like this. Alright, so I think this is looking I wouldn't say much better, but I prefer this to what I had previously. So before that, you know what, the beach, let's just apply a curves layer on top so that it looks a bit darker from what we have here. So I'm going to click and drag from the dark edges, which is right here, and this is the highlights, which I'm not going to mess with. So the dark portion is like so, and I'll leave it as that. So let's just group this up, Ctrl G whilst all layers are selected, and call this background. Alright, and probably just group this and call this image or something. Yeah, I think this is okay. Alright, so let's zoom in a little bit. Looking at the tortoise, you can see that over at these edges they are moving outside. I don't know how to explain, but they are not looking clear enough. They are not as good as I expect due to the selection I made. So I'll hold down the Control key and I'll click on this thumbnail. You can see the moment I hold down the Control key, I get this icon right next to the hand cursor, and I'll go into I'll go into Select, Modify, Contract. So this is going to contract by 2 pixels, so that means this selection is going to move in 2 pixels inward. So like so, if I zoom in, you can see that it is 2 pixels inward. This is the before, this is the after. And usually I'll just hit delete, but delete is going to delete with the layer selected, of course. It's going to delete the image itself and leave the outlines. So I'll go to select and I'll go to inverse. So that's going to select the outer borders, and I'm going to delete the outer borders. So now we have a fine edge like so. So you can see this is what we had previously. This is the before and this is the after. Alright, so things are looking up. We are going to create a layer just beneath the tortoise image and call this shadow. So, and I'll grab the brush tool, set it to a reasonable size, probably 500 pixel, and set the color to black, and I'll brush in, 500 is a little bit too much, so probably 300, and brush over. 300 is still too much, but let's just brush over this area for the time being, and I'll create another layer. This time around, let's set it to about 100, and I'll brush over this area just beneath the foot, and somewhere around here, and somewhere around here also. Then I'm just going to, let's call this let's merge both of them. So selecting both of them, right click and go to merge layers, or you can just use Ctrl E, and I'll just reduce the opacity to about 80%. Should look okay. Then I'll create another one. This time it's going to be shadow on top, so probably shadow up. and I'll have this on top of my image. Zoom in a little bit again with the brush size to a minimum, probably 80 pixel. I'll brush on top of the image itself. You know what, let's make it 50, and I'll brush on top of the image itself, so something like this. Move over to the other, something like this. Now notice I'm brushing on top of the image itself. It's not actually going to be beneath, so I think something like this is okay. And I'll also reduce the opacity to about 50, and I think that is looking quite okay. Alright, so what we are going to do is we are going to create selections of some parts of the shell. So let's just select this image and create a selection around that area like so. So go to the pen tool, that is the best tool for doing this kind of work, and make sure that the part up here is set to shape. Now the fill is set to any color, mine is set to white, the stroke is set to none. So if yours is set to something, just click on this and select the first one, and we are going to create the first one somewhere around here. So I'll create something like this, just trying to follow the pattern of the shell like so. And I'll tell you why we use shape later on. Now the reason why we use shape instead of the path is the shape allows us to create an actual object on top of the place. So that makes it a lot easier when you are creating a selection, rather than creating a selection which is going to go away later on when we are working. So I think something like this is okay. So we have our first shape, which is this one. Let's just call it 1, and I'll create another one. It's going to be quite close to what we did, but it's not going to be overlapping. So somewhere around here, something like this. Now at any point in time, if you can't see, just zoom in using your zoom tool, that's Z on your keyboard, and just create a selection like so. So you know what, let me just fast forward from here, because this is pretty much the tedious area of this whole entire tutorial. Alright, so I'm done with that. Now for the shape 3, I actually made it to go outside the shape. That is because I already have a selection of the image in here, so if I control click on the thumbnail, I can get my selection back. So what I can do is just create a layer mask, and it's going to hide all those wrong portions or the imperfections, so that is a lot easier. So yeah, I'm just going to continue drawing the rest, and I'll get back to you guys later. So I'll select all of these shape and I'll group them up. Now once I have done that, Ctrl J to duplicate. Let's hide the other one for now, and let's just call this shapes so that we don't confuse ourselves. Right click and go to merge group, so I have them merged together as one single layer like so. And the reason why we do this is we are going to be applying other images on top, so it's a lot easier to just use one single layer rather than going through a bunch of different ones. I still keep this just in case I want to go back to the original and make some changes. Alright, so let's go ahead and select one of the images we are going to be using. So I have a nice shark in here, but before that, let's just grab a picture of the sea and just place it on top like so. And this is looking quite huge. So what I'll do is I'll bring it just here on top of the shapes, and I'll right click and go to create clipping mask. So this is going to create a mask like so on top of that. Now I can go ahead and reduce the size, and this is only going to show where that shapes are. So if I go ahead and move the shapes, you can see that the image is only showing where those shapes are. That is pretty cool when you are using clipping mask. So I'll just have it here because I don't want the sea to be showing, and I'll just comment OK like so, and I'll be bringing in the rest of my images. You know what, let's just group these up and call them inner sea or something, so that it makes it a lot easier when we are working with this. Call this C, and let's start bringing in our images. So this is going to be the first shark. I'll click and drag this and put it in here. Again, right click, go to create clipping mask, so it's going to be just on top of the sea, and you can see how it is looking like already. So I can flip this around just a little bit, so something like this should be okay. I probably should have created a selection before even putting it in the image. So let's just go ahead and do that, even though it's going to be a lot difficult because I've reduced the size, so the quality is also going to reduce. So let's just use the pen tool to do that, but again I'm going to change it to path so that I can just create a selection without having to create a shape like before. Alright, so once I have my selection, right click, go to make selection and reverse it, so Ctrl Shift I, and just delete out all those portions. I can't delete because it's a smart object, so I'll just have to right click and go to rasterize layer, then I can go ahead and just delete it like so. So you can see I have to recreate the clipping mask. I deactivated it for a second because I was working with the image. I wanted to see everything, so I can place this somewhere around here, and that is pretty cool. Alright, so let's just bring in the rest of the images and pretty much do the exact same thing. I'm not going to repeat the exact same process or the mistake I did previously. I'm going to create the selection before I even import it into the actual image. Alright, so once I have my selection, right click, go to create layer via copy, create a layer via copy, or create layer via cut. Either one would work. So I have it here, and I can just take away the shark like so, and I'll place it in the image. Whoa, again, create a clipping mask. This is quite huge, so I'll reduce the size to something like this and have it floating somewhere around here. I think that's okay. And I'll get the third one, so let's just bring that one also in. Alright, so we can see that this image is a little bit blown out because the lighting is different, so I'll control click on that, go into the adjustment panel, click on curves, and again I'll just bring it down, the curves down like so, and I'm going to create a clipping mask for that also, so that the other parts do not show like this. So at any point in time you can see that if I turn it off and on, this is what we have. So yeah, if you have a bunch of other fishes you want to add in there, I think you can do that and make it look pretty cool. You know what, let's go to the adjustment panel and add in color balance, and I can turn this all to bluish color. So let's just make the cyan go crazy and add in a little bit of blue, and also have it in here, create clipping mask like so. You can just simply create a clipping mask by holding down the Alt key and moving between these two layers. So you get this icon, you just click and it creates a clipping mask. Very simple for you. And it appears that this shark is also too blue, so again color balance, and I'll make it a little bit reddish or yellowish. I have no idea whether this thing is working or not. It's not working because I chose the different image, so that's going to be this one. Color balance and make it reddish like so, probably yellowish, I don't know, something. So I'll just be working something out later on, probably after this tutorial. So if you have a bunch of other fishes, you can also add it in there, which I'm going to do, but I don't want this tutorial to be too long, so I think I can leave it here for you guys. But before that, for the shell we have these areas, so I want us to make it a little bit darker so that it can complement what we have over at the top. So to do that, let's just turn this off for a second and create a selection around the shell. So I'm just going to be using the quick selection tool because for this type of thing is going to be a lot easier rather than just using the pen tool, which is going to take a lot of time. And I'll go into the adjustment panel, I click on curves, and I'll make it darker, very dark, something like this. So let's bring this up and see the difference. As always, the PSD template is going to be linked below, so be sure to check it out. Anyway, thank you guys for watching. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you'd like to watch more of our videos, hit that subscribe button, and as always, don't forget to share with your family and friends. This is Theo from Concept, and I'll talk to you guys in the next one.